We'll do several example problems in this video. Example 1. A 2009 study by Princeton Survey Research Associates International found that 34% of teenagers text while driving. Does a recent survey conducted by Consumer Reports, which found that 353 of 1,200 randomly selected teens had texted while driving, suggests that the proportion of teens who text while driving is less than it was in 2009. Use the alpha equals 0.05 level of significance. First, we need to check the requirements. Do we have a simple random sample? Yes, we do. We can know that because it says that they were randomly selected teens. So we can assume that means it was simple random. Then we have to calculate the requirement that the sample size times the hypothesized proportion times 1 minus the hypothesized proportion is greater than or equal to 10. So we know that our sample is 1,200 people. So N is 1,200. Our hypothesized proportion is from the Princeton survey, so the 2009 survey, and it's 34%, which is 0.34. Now we just need to calculate that. So we have 1,200 times 0.34 times 1 minus 0.34, and that equals 269.28, which is definitely greater than or equal to 10. Now we need to check that the sample size is less than 5% of the population size. Well, think about the U.S. There are millions of teenagers in the U.S. And since there are millions of teenagers, then 1,200 teenagers is definitely less than 5% of the population of teenagers. So now we can state our hypotheses. The first hypothesis, our null, so H null, is that the proportion equals 34% or 0.34. Our null hypothesis is that P is less than, because that's what it says in the problem, is less than 0.34. Okay, so select the significance level. The problem told us that our alpha is 0.05. So find the test statistic and the p-value. This is where we use 1 prop z test. And so let me get that over here. So we are going to go hit stat, go over to tests. We want option number 5, the 1 prop z test. Our P0 is our hypothesized proportion, so 0.34. Our X is the number of teens who admitted to texting while driving in the new survey, which was 353. And N was our sample size, which is 1200. And since our H1 is less than, we're going to go over to in where it says prop to less than, and make sure you click enter because we need to make sure that that stays highlighted. Now we just go to calculate and hit enter. So the things that the calculator tells us, it tells us what we picked as our alternative hypothesis, that the proportion was less than 0.34. That's always good to check to make sure that you actually picked the right thing. Z is our test statistic, and the P right underneath it is our p-value. So let's write down what we have. Our test statistic Z, which we write, remember, Z sub 0, is negative 3.35. And we can just round those to 2 decimal places. The p-value we got, which the calculator just writes p, but we write p-value, was 4.0169 e to the minus 4. Remember, a p-value is a probability. So anytime you see a number bigger than 1, make sure you check for that e to a minus something out to the right side of your screen. And let me bring the calculator back so you can see that. So here's the p-value. It's a 4. So I automatically think to myself, uh-oh, it's a probability, so it can't be 4, so it must be scientific notation. And if you recall from your support class, for those of you that are in it, the e to the minus 4 means move the decimal point 4 places to the left. So that gives us 0.0004 for our p-value, approximately. So based on that, our p-value is less than alpha, because remember our p-value is 0.0004 and our alpha is 0.05. So that means we reject H naught, the null hypothesis. And then we just need to state the conclusion. So the conclusion is there is sufficient evidence at the alpha equals 0.05 significance level to conclude that the proportion of teens who text while driving is less than it was in 2009. So remember, our conclusion is always about the alternative hypothesis. And our alternative hypothesis was that the proportion is less than it was in 2009. That's it for this video. We'll do the second example in the next video.